Right. So your brand is essentially your identity. And that needs to go through and be consistent in every single aspect of your company. It's super important for any company, but especially in healthcare, it is such a personal service, right? Someone has an injury, ailment, or wants to prevent an injury or ailment or illness. So they're looking for the most qualified providers. They are not just looking at one resource, they are looking throughout the entire spectrum. So your brand is exactly who you are, and that
Yeah.
needs to be transferable through everything, through your mission, vision, messaging, your color scheme. People need to be able to identify you, who you are, what you stand for, throughout every aspect. So a brand is critical, and that consistency and visibility is really what allows brands and companies, especially in a healthcare market that's super saturated, to really stand out amongst the rest of the competition.
This episode is brought to you by the team here at PT Pintcast Media. If you've ever thought about launching a podcast to grow your brand, your clinic, your business, we can help. You do the talky, we do the rest. Editing, producing, scheduling, all the stuff you don't want to do. We do that for you. Email us at jimmy@ptpintcast.com and we can help launch your show today or tomorrow if you're busy. Today's episode, our guest is redefining how patients find physical therapy. In a world where most clinics still rely on physician referrals and hope their website works, she's building a powerhouse brand using data, community outreach, and real marketing strategy. From local grassroots efforts to enterprise-level growth across the Northeast, and with a hot take on why PT marketing is still stuck in 2009. You're about to meet the Chief Marketing Officer leading the charge at one of the industry's most recognizable names. From JAG Physical Therapy, welcome Kayla George to PT Pintcast. Kayla, welcome to the show. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. I know running communications and marketing for a pretty small organization like JAG, probably keeps you a little bit busy.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. How long have you been doing marketing and communications for JAG as a whole?
Perfect. So I've been at JAG full time for just over 15 years now. Prior, I started actually fresh out of college at a sports marketing agency. I was with them for 3 years, and two of those, JAG was one of my clients. So I got to know the brand very early on. I started working with John in the account when he was just opening facility number 2.
Wow.
And right now we are at 162, which I don't think if you spoke to either of us way back when, we would think we would be where we are now, but it has been quite the journey.
Wow. 2 to 162.
Yes, and
That-
counting.
Wow. Good for you. Um, okay. So you're adding some complexity to the conversation. Let's start big because our audience is healthcare providers. A lot of them either own their own clinic, want to own their own clinic. So let's go big. How do you define brand in healthcare, and why does it matter in physical therapy now more than ever, maybe?
Right. So your brand is essentially your identity. And that needs to go through and be consistent in every single aspect of your company. It's super important for any company, but especially in healthcare, it is such a personal service, right? Someone has an injury, ailment, or wants to prevent an injury or ailment or illness. So they're looking for the most qualified providers. They are not just looking at one resource, they are looking throughout the entire spectrum. So your brand is exactly who you are, and that
Yeah.
needs to be transferable through everything, through your mission, vision, messaging, your color scheme. People need to be able to identify you, who you are, what you stand for, throughout every aspect. So a brand is critical, and that consistency and visibility is really what allows brands and companies, especially in a healthcare market that's super saturated, to really stand out amongst the rest of the competition.
It's a little more than just what your logo is or where you can put it, right? It's all the
Absolutely.
things. I've heard smart people say, and I think if you ask 100 people in marketing and communications what brand is, you might get 100 different answers. But some of the ones that come to mind is your brand is really what people say about you when you're not in the room. So
Exactly.
it's that taste or smell, and I like using taste or smell because they're so abstract, but it's the taste or smell that someone has in their brain after they've interacted with you. So here's a question for you. In that many years with JAG, where have you seen your brand show up on purpose or on accident that's really made you proud? I mean, I've seen your logos on baseball. I mean, on TV and baseball games and things like Major League Baseball. Like, but where are some places that you've been able to say and insert JAG and physical therapy in your career that's really made you proud?
Yeah, you know what? The brand of JAG Physical Therapy, it's like my baby. Have invented it, reinvented it. We've rebranded again. So it has evolved significantly over the years. But the fact of the matter is, we are a clinician led company. Our CEO is a treating physical therapist and certified athletic trainer. And that is one of the core values of our brand and really what makes us different. And you kind of hit on it before. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. So we, of course, like any other company, pay for advertisements, pay for partnerships, pay for that level of visibility that allows us to lend an area of expertise, but also remain visible in such a saturated market. But
Yeah,
it's, listening to the radio and hearing an on-air personality talk about our brand or an experience about our brand that is not paid for, and having someone share that, or having a patient, like, I'll be in, one of my kids' soccer games, and there will be a patient that's on the bleachers next to me talking about, hey, where'd you go to rehab? Oh, I went to JAG here. They were awesome. I highly recommend them. It's that I hear from afar that really makes me proud, because of course it's my job to get us out there and spread the word, but the fact that our patients are really seeing our service and pleased with our service and recommending that to others, it's healthcare, right? You're not going to recommend something that you don't really stand behind, or that you feel didn't
sure.
really help you or add value to your life. So, hearing that even, on a local soccer field while my little 7-year old plays soccer, that's something that I can't pay for. So
Yeah.
that certainly makes me the proudest.
Good. What's made JAG stand out in such a crowded market? I mean, you're in New York and New Jersey. These are not easy. I mean, cutting through noise in that market. It's I know from my days in radio, it's radio market one, it's TV market one. There in our country, there is not a more crowded place to get someone to pay attention, and I use these phrases all the time on this podcast, pay attention and spend time. Even asking someone to, click like on something is time, and you've got to earn that. So, like, walk me through like name recognition, consistency, outcomes, trust. Like, how have you done this? How have you stood out in the most crowded market in the country?
Yeah, and you know what? It's been building blocks. Like I said, I started with this company as a baby when we were first, figuring out what is it that we want to be when we grow up. And so when I speak about what we do in terms of marketing, it's very scalable. I'm not talking about things that only bigger companies can achieve. It's really at a grassroots level that you need to understand who your patients are. And essentially, for physical therapy, our patients are coming to us 2 to 3 times a week for upwards of an hour. So that convenience factor is key. And with that, we really have understood from the beginning that it's reaching people at the local level that's really going to make the needle move. So, of course, we could do radio, TV, billboards, all of this major, advertising, digital marketing verticals. But essentially, what has made us successful comes down to the grassroots level. And that's throughout all of our key messaging, all of our key branding. We like to call ourselves a resource to the local community. But at the end of the day, we need to back that up. What does that mean when we say we want to be an educational resource? We want to be a medical resource. That's us having our local clinical team, whether that's in West Orange or out in Staten Island or Brooklyn or Manhattan. They are interacting with our community every single day. That could be doing complementary injury prevention. That could be visiting local businesses. That could be, sponsoring a charitable organization or initiative for maybe a kid in the community or a family struggling, or the mayor's office or the local fire or police department. what makes that community tick, and how do we truly serve as a resource? Does that mean, fitting in that patient that calls in a 10 out of 10 acute pain at 5 o'clock on a Friday? Yeah, no one wants to do that. But if you're going to call yourself a resource to the community,
Sure.
that's where you need to be. And you need to be able to show that day in and day out. So that's really what, we've created. It's, of course, we're taking that messaging and broadcasting it through a bunch of different verticals. But at the end of the day, it's how do we cater to our local community to ensure that they know who we are, what we do, and how we could help them. And it's
Yeah.
showing up and meeting them exactly where they are.
Yeah. Is there a campaign that comes to mind in your 15 years with JAG that like really like you look back at it, maybe you saved the poster or the thing, the item that you had your logo on? Is there like one or two that come to mind that you're like, this was cool, this had impact, this people still talk about? Is anything comes to mind?
Yeah, so there was a radio spot that our CEO did, and you've met John Gallucci,
Yeah.
so you know his personality. He is very vibrant. He speaks what's on his mind, and we actually use him in most of our marketing and advertising to this day, just because there's no one that represents us better than our CEO. And not only is he an amazing businessman and clinician, but he is a true personality. So as you know, pickleball is like the
Oh yeah.
biggest sport in America right now. And we did a spot, it was like 2 years ago on the fan. And, he came out, he's like, pickleball, pickleball, pickleball. And when I tell you, like, we'll walk into Odyssey and we'll be doing something with Tiki Barber, and he'll even, say pickleball, pickleball. Like, we can't get away from that. And
Yeah.
that's just one of, many different scenarios. I think for us, some of the things that really stand out are some of the partnerships, because again, that's relationship building that is allowing us to really integrate into our community. So for me, that's one of the most, enjoyable parts of my job and what I get to do. And I even work with soccer coaches that coached me growing up.
Yeah.
So that makes me feel incredibly old, but there's nothing more special than, us going into Clifton High School and, doing a presentation and my soccer coach standing up and saying, these people are the real deal. And I coached Kayla, back 20 years ago.
That's great. All right, real talk for a second. If you're a physical therapist or running a clinic, you already wear like 50 hats a day. Clinician, manager, scheduler, part-time tech support. I see you. But what if you had a sidekick that could help you do all of that? Something smarter. That's where Empower EMR by MW Therapy comes in. It's built just for physical therapists, and it's loaded with smart automations and AI that help you grow your practice without burning out. No more chasing paper trails or fighting outdated systems. This thing handles billing, scheduling, documentation, patient engagement, all in one clean, customizable platform. The best part? It's actually affordable and scales as you grow. Clinics everywhere are loving it, and if you're ready to take the stress off your plate and be the hero of your practice again, check out a free demo at mwtherapy.com. You mentioned partnerships. You could sponsor anything, mostly anything. What goes through your mind in terms of if this is going to be a good fit? Like, what are the steps? It doesn't need to be official, right? But like, you've been doing this for a long time. This is probably automatic, and this is probably innate to you. But if you were evaluating a partnership, what are the things you look for on their end, right? Who you're going to partner with, as well as yours. Like, walk me through like sort of your thought process on how to say this is a good partnership opportunity.
Right. There's many layers to that.
Sure.
And we have many partners, and we have very small community partners up to, the New Jersey Devils and New York City FC. So this thought process and kind of how we evaluate things is consistent across the board. But the first one is there a shared mission and value? Like, we're not going to partner with a company that is against healthcare or wellness or, like a junk food company. Like, there is not a shared mission and value there.
Now,
Um,
now I want to stop you because this is terribly important, and it's terribly important to do early, because if you get way down the road and you haven't asked this, is there alignment? you could have just wasted a lot of time. So what you just said there, I want to make sure the audience like understood. It sounds like you're throwing that away, like, that's obvious. It isn't always obvious, and it needs to be number one. So I love the fact that you had it number one.
Right. That's, there has to be shared mission values. Number two is what are the goals of the partnership? And that needs to be on both sides, right? I am very
Love
upfront. What am I looking to achieve from this partnership? And I want to hear that from the partner side, because if at the end of the day, I might not agree with the goals, or I don't foresee the goals being something that we can achieve or live up to as an organization, that's not going to be a long-standing partnership. And really, partnership is another word of saying, a collaboration, a connection. And if you can't start that out and see down the line that, hey, we're going to be able to achieve this and it's going to be successful from both sides, don't even start, right?
it.
So I'm not looking to, sell anyone on a bag of goods because I want to utilize their name or brand to help leverage something for JAG Physical Therapy. We need to share and understand what are the goals from both sides, and then work towards, well, how do we achieve those goals? And then how do we continue to evolve those goals? Any partnership we do, we look at 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road. Some of our bigger partnerships, we're signing 3-4 year deals, so we need to be able to see out into the future, how do we continue to grow and evolve this, how do we continue to set goals, and what do we need to do to grow those relationships, right? Because as the relationships grow, the opportunities also grow, whether or not that's on black and white at the end of the contract. Hey, you get this, and this, and we get this, and this. A true partnership is picking up the phone and saying, hey, I have this really great opportunity. Thought of you guys. How can we collaborate on that?
Yeah.
And I'll give a perfect example. New Jersey Youth Soccer has been one of our partners for, over the last 8 years. There's a long-standing relationship there, and we do a lot in the soccer space. We've also written articles for a company called Soccer Today, which they're online. They send out a ton of, content to help that youth soccer population. New Jersey Youth Soccer came to us and said, listen, we're going to be doing some content with us. We really want to hit on the injury prevention aspect. We feel this is something that we could do together that will really add value to what we're saying and what we're promoting. And we could go through that as partners. And, that's not something that was on a contract. That was an opportunity that came to fruition. And that happens every day. So looking at partnership as how do we, really grow and evolve together? And then how do we create goals that are going to be sustainable from both sides to set us up for long-term success?
Everything you just listed, you can say is important in building a relationship, whether that's professional, personal, friendship. So I think people, a lot of times when people will think, they might think, what does Kayla do? Marketing, it's buying an ad, right? And then you want to see that return on investment tomorrow. But that's not what relationships are built on, right? That's a transaction. If I give you something and I want to get something right away, that's a transaction. And those are great. But it sounds like you know how to leverage transactional relationships, paying for an ad, versus how do we build a relationship so over time we don't see a 1-to-1 or a 1-to-2 return on investment. It's a 1-to-100, and both sides are taking advantage of that. Both sides. That's a true partnership.
Right. And that needs to be across the board. We have 160 plus locations. So, the deals, of course, start in the marketing department, but that transcends across our entire company. We have a partnership with Rutgers. So, of course, our executive team is engaged in that and working through that and creating relationships. But so is our clinical director in New Brunswick that is treating, the student body, treating the student athletes in their communities each and every day, as is, the front desk person that's answering the phone. So it goes through our entire infrastructure on, okay, it's not just a partnership with JAG's marketing department. That needs to grow and evolve, and it needs to hit every level of the organization in
Sure.
order for it to be successful.
Yeah, well said. You mentioned return on investment. You have to be able to measure those things, because a lot of people might come and say, "Well, I spent this, and what did I get? I don't know. Our logo was on the banner ad or the scoreboard at the Devils game. That's cool, but I'm sure quarterly or more than quarterly, Kayla has to say, this is what we did, this is how it went, and this is what the return was, and this is why we need to go forward. But let me change the question in terms of this, in terms of data. How do you use patient data and referral trends to actually shape smarter marketing campaigns using information to improve return on investment in that way?
It's funny you asked that question because I spoke on a panel in front of probably 35 physicians a couple months ago.
Okay.
And if you look at the healthcare space, it's and especially outpatient physical therapy, it's unique to have an entire marketing department. Usually, companies either have a COO or a CEO that's kind of taking control of those responsibilities. Maybe there's a lower level marketing person, but there's not really an entire department that is tasked with marketing a healthcare organization.
Sure.
And healthcare has kind of been behind the eight ball when it comes to that. So when I was speaking to these physicians, it was me and a couple other people. One of the questions asked was, how are you utilizing data? And a couple of the answers were, well, we don't really have the data to utilize. And, you know, an electronic medical record, especially in today's day and age, is your data warehouse. You are getting all of the key information about your patients, about your clinicians, their age, their demographics, their length of stay, their injury, if they were a repeat patient, their referring physician. So you have all the data you need at your fingertips, and it's about compiling that data and utilizing that to approach marketing. And a lot of people, especially medical practices that, you have either founders, owners, operators that are wearing multiple different hats that they don't have the time to really dive in. And what we've been able to do is kind of take that data, put it in a system, and be able to spit it out to our clinicians to say, this is, your average patient. This patient, is underutilizing care, or this patient is a risk to drop off at X amount of visits. How do we re-engage them? How do we meet them where they are? And also on a referral source component, you're getting X amount of commercial payers. You're getting, patients from this referral source. This was a brand new referral source. We might want to engage with this physician. So there is so much data at your fingertips. You don't necessarily need a CRM or, a
Right.
big marketing hub to be able to achieve it. Of course, if you have, a savvy and growing marketing department, you will have those tools. But at the end of the day, look in your EMR, and that's going to tell you everything you need to know.
I almost feel like the title of this episode would be like, your EMR is your CRM. Like, there is
Right.
your marketing tool. You've got a lot of data, because ultimately healthcare and marketing communications, these are about people, connecting them with solutions that could help them, doing it in a way that they understand, that's going to resonate with them. Is there a way of reaching out? Because it depends on who you talk to. Referrals are the worst thing in the world to do, or referrals are the only thing I do. Like, it's almost like there's no middle, right? What's a way that you interact with physicians who either haven't or refer regularly? What is a good way that doesn't come across as salesy or make an organization feel icky? What's a good way to interact with those referral partners?
Right. So, I mean, it really comes down to the clinicians, right? If, the physical therapist is seeing a physician or referral source that is constantly sending, they want to open up that communication. Maybe they reach out, hey, Dr. X, I saw Johnny today. This is what I'm seeing. It seems a little odd, or he's progressing really nicely, and kind of talk through that case. And on the flip side, for a physician that has just referred, that's an open opportunity to reach out and introduce yourself, right? Whether or not that patient really came from that referral source, that might have been their physician. The doctor might have not said, hey, go to JAG Physical Therapy in West Orange. The patient might have just landed in our laps because their neighbor had a good experience, and they said, hey, go to JAG for your rehab. But that is an open invitation and opportunity to go and introduce yourself. And of course, we have a sales team here at JAG. We like to take marketing as a full circle approach. We are not just market to doctors or just advertise on the radio. We're doing a lot of different things. But the number one thing that our sales team does, and we don't even call them salespeople. We call them community outreach liaisons, because that's what they are. They are the connection between the community and our offices. They are going out with their clinical directors, with their lead therapists, and introducing them to referral sources. And the data that comes in through the EMR is giving us those tools to be able to go out and introduce ourselves. And sometimes that physician or physician office might be busy, but again, it's all these opportunities for engagement. And if you continue to try to build relationships, they will come.
If you put the effort in, if it's in an honest way, in a real way,
Right.
things magically wind up showing up.
And there's always things to talk about. There's so many unique cases, right? One ACL is very different from the next ACL. And,
Sure.
patients are leveraging physical therapy in a way they never had before. So there's plenty of opportunity for collaboration, communication between physical therapists and the referring providers. And at the end of the day, that just helps the patient, right?
Yeah.
And it helps us really build those relationships.
All right, Kayla, I feel like we've gotten to know each other enough that I can ask you this, right? I want your hottest take, because you said this. Physical therapy marketing is behind the curve. What do you think from your vantage point? And it's a unique one. I mean, not many people get to oversee the marketing of 162, clinics. What's holding most clinics, small, large, doesn't matter. What's holding most of those clinics back?
There's a few things. Number one, and I think I mentioned it before, healthcare services in general has been behind the eight ball in terms of marketing and PR and advertising and all these tools we have available. Physical therapy is way behind the eight ball. And if you look 20, 25, 30 years ago, you called physical therapy marketing calling on referral sources, walking into physician offices, dropping
Sure.
off goodies, trying to make those relationships. And that was it. And I still see that today. It's either they're doing one or two things, but they're not looking at it in a full circle environment and really taking control of their destiny. So if you look at some practices, they're not even investing the dollars in marketing or the time in marketing to see a return, right? They might place an ad or do an ad for, 30 days, 60 days. It takes you at least 90 days to even get your message across. So anyone that's doing something for a month, 2 months, and then evaluating, well, you're evaluating nothing. So that's number one. The investment isn't there, especially for growing companies, right? You can't, throw a couple $100 at a marketing person a month and be like, get it done. Especially in a market like we sit in, right? New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, everything is expensive. So,
$100 ain't getting you a lunch for two.
Right, right. And, I think the fact of the matter is, and we spoke about this a little bit before, everyone is worried about the ROI factor. But
Yeah.
a good sound marketing plan, there's going to be things that you can measure from an ROI perspective. And there's going to be things, and I'll tell our CEO, John, I can't tell you what I got out of this, but this is why we're doing it. And
Yeah.
I'll get the buy-in from him based on those key factors. But I will be the first one to say, hey, these are the aspects I'll be able to report to you on. And this is just a branding initiative and things we need to do because it makes sense. So being able to really map that out, and I think that's whoever's in charge of marketing really needs to sit and design the strategy. What does the budget look like? What does the return look like? What does the time frame look like where you want to sit down and really evaluate it? Does this make sense? Is it providing a return? Should we do more of this or less of that? I think all of that comes into play, and it needs to be a full circle initiative. It's no longer the days where you're just marketing to other healthcare professionals.
Sure.
Patients are really taking their healthcare into their own hands. They're looking on Google, but that's not good enough. They're asking their physician. That's also not good enough. They're asking their friends, their family, their relatives, their community, who did you go to? And if you don't check every single one of those boxes, you're not being chosen. And that's just the fact of the matter. So it's no longer where you could play in this space, but not play in this space. You have to be everywhere. And it's really what's said again, behind your back, behind the scenes, what the community is saying about you, that makes people make that choice. So it needs to be a well-rounded campaign. And you need to, as a company, as a brand, be able to meet your patients where they are and be able to fulfill that need, right? Not all patients want to hear, hey, we're growing here, we're growing there. Well, what does that mean for me? How can you help me? So, kind of less tooting your own horn,
Sure.
more focusing on, hey, this is what we're seeing in our clinics every day. Maybe we create a small video because we know it's going to help people. So, just to summarize for you, a well-rounded approach, you need to be able to invest in it. You need to be able to have a full circle ROI and be able to say, this is branding, this is what I can measure, this is how we're evaluating. And it needs to be a long-standing campaign or initiative and something that you're really tied to for a length of time that's going to allow you to really measure success.
All right, if you're still doing all your notes by hand, we need to talk. Athelis AI Scribe is changing the game. You walk in, you talk to your patient like you normally would, you treat them, and boom, your notes are drafted in real time. Thanks to AI. No voice commands, no clicking around. It just listens and writes like a scribe, but smarter. People are cutting their documentation time by 90%. That's not a typo, 90%. That's actual feedback from real clinicians using it now. You want to see it in action? Go to athelis.com and take a test drive. That's ATHELAS.com and say goodbye to after hours charting. Love it. And that translates large or small. In fact, some people will say, I'm so small I can't market, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would come back and say, it's too big of a risk not to. Right? And
Right.
it doesn't mean you need to hire someone like Kayla if you're one provider or 10 providers, but you need to make sure someone owns it, because if no one owns it, it doesn't get done. And not doing it, I tell people all the time, I'll talk to a room full of healthcare providers and say, who here is doing, and I'm using air quotes, doing public relations? And some of them will raise their hands. And I'm saying, my response is, you're either doing it well or you're not, or you're doing it poorly. You decide which one you're doing, because not doing it, and then I'll put it in PT terms, the muscle is either getting stronger or it's atrophying. It is neither. It is never in a steady state. So you're doing something to improve it, or you're not doing anything and it's atrophying. So you need to make sure
Right.
you pay attention to that.
And quite honestly, I feel like physical therapy is one of the easiest to market because your patients are within a 3 to 5 mile radius. Think about it. They are coming to you 2 to 3 times a week for upwards of an hour. No one has time for that. So, typically, especially in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, you're grabbing 5 to 10 miles, like at best. Like that's people traveling to come see you. So you
Sure.
have an open, small marketplace, and it doesn't always cost money. Visibility doesn't always cost a large amount of money. And I know that because I started with the company when we had 2 locations. Our CEO's mom used to make meatloaf that he would deliver to our referral sources. That's not even a joke. Just to get in front of someone, start a conversation. And little by little, we said, this is how we're going to do it. And the grassroots approach worked back then at 2, and it still works today at 162. It doesn't cost anything more than time to go to a local business to give an hour presentation, or to go, show up at, helmet fitting for youth football and be a resource. Those resources aren't out there. So there's
Yeah.
ways to do it. And again, it's foundational. I'm not telling anyone you got to go and spend on, out of home and radio and digital and all these things, but find a way to be present and continue to build and evolve on that.
Love that. All right. If you were to give some advice to a PT clinic outside of the New York, New Jersey area, right? So you can't help your competition, but
Absolutely
I feel like a lot of the information you are giving, because this
not.
is just good basic stuff that needs to be done regularly at scale. But if you were going to give advice to a PT clinic owner right now looking to grow, where would they start if they have no marketing background whatsoever? So they're going to start, let's say they're all set up, they're 6 months in, and now they're saying, this marketing thing, I don't know. I heard this podcast episode about it. I think should be doing it. What is a couple actionable things you think you would have someone do?
Yeah, you're going to get out of your office. The time that you spend in
There
your
we go.
office, it's going to be nurturing those patient relationships, right? One patient is easily three, four, five, six patients, as long as they have a good experience. So while you're in there clinically, build those relationships, talk to your patients, understand who they are, what they do. You might be treating the police chief. You don't know that unless you're having that conversation. If you are treating the police chief, understand, how can I help you? How can I help your workforce? How can I be a resource to this local community? So when you're in the clinic, clinically treating the patients, get to know who they are, and try to build a relationship based on that, because that patient walks out, has a great experience, you're getting more patients from there. And then when you're not treating clinically, get out into the community. Go and introduce yourself to everyone. Go to the local high school, show up to a PTA meeting, go to the local businesses, go into a bank, drop them off a bunch of pens. Every bank needs more pens, right? You always go into a bank, you're looking for pens, you're looking for this, that. Go into the local pizza place. Make yourself known and then build on there. And also, create your own content. Right now, you could set up social media, you could set up blogs. All of that isn't going to cost you any money except for some of your time. Eventually, you're going to want to take and subsidize that with some type of budget, but there's a lot you could do, especially in the beginning, to make yourself known, make yourself visible, and really broaden your reach organically. And you kind of take that and grow and evolve from there. And that's really the key building blocks. And I would say the first thing is, before they start any of that, figure out who your brand is. Do you have a logo that's recognizable? What are your mission and values as a company? What are those communication points? So if you're going into a local business or going to meet the athletic director across the street from you, what are you telling them? And can you back that up? And if you can't back that up, I wouldn't tell them that, right? I would
Yeah.
figure out what makes me unique, what makes me different, and what is going to make them choose me as opposed to someone else. And whatever that is, you have to make sure you back that up, not just once, not just twice, consistently, and
Yeah.
grow the team underneath you to understand that mission and help broaden it and broaden your reach.
Kayla, you ready for game time?
Always.
All right, game time with Kayla. Here's how it's going to go. I didn't prepare her for this, so she's going to wing this. This is all
I'm
off
a
the cuff.
little nervous.
We're going to talk. It's going to be called Build the Brand. I'll throw out a marketing scenario. You hit me what you do first. I just want your gut instinct reaction just right off the bat. Are you ready?
I am.
All right, you're launching a new clinic. This is going to be Clinic 163. It's in a new town. What's the first marketing move Kayla makes?
I let my current patients know when we're opening and where we're opening.
See, here's why I like that. It's super, super basic. It is the opposite of fancy. And Kayla, what'd that cost you?
Nothing.
Nothing. Second scenario, a competitor just opened up next door. Do you respond? If so, how? What do you do?
Nope. We have competition next door everywhere. There
Everywhere.
is
Right.
PT on every block. At the end of the day, we've always had a philosophy, and I always have a philosophy. Water the grass in your own backyard. Worry about your
Love
own
it.
backyard. I could care less if you open up across the street. I'll go and wish you a welcome, hello. There's more than enough patience for all of us. Maybe there's a way we could work together, but at the end of the day, I'm doing nothing to combat that.
Love it. You have to answer. There's no it depends here, Kayla. One social platform to go all in on for local PT marketing in 2025, 2026. You can only pick one.
Instagram.
All right. Why? What about that resonates with you?
I feel like Instagram gives us a lot of different tools, right? You could get that fast action marketing through Reels. You also have the static images where you want to share more. You also have the stories, which, people don't have time. I look at my stories all day, click, 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 click. So there are multiple ways to reach your audience. I am not a TikTok fan, and I hate saying that on air in public. I also have young children, so I think philosophically, it's just not my favorite.
Yeah.
But Instagram, I think you could hit everything
Yeah.
through that one platform, depending on how users want to really consume their content.
Okay. You got $1,000 to spend on marketing. You're going to try, I'll give you the specific scenario though, because that's too broad. You're going to try to build a bridge with physicians in a new area. So physician introduction. How do you make that $1,000 count?
What I'm doing is I am holding some type of community event with the $1,000. I'm putting some of it towards food and beverage. I'm putting some of that to pay a local physician in that new practice to come and speak to that population. And the rest of the money I'm putting towards some type of community engagement, likely on a social media channel, because there's a low cost to be able to broaden the reach, get the message out there. It allows me to provide an audience to that new physician that I want to entertain and make happy and show this is what JAG Physical Therapy does. I'm engaging with the community. And again, it's only $1,000. So that's all we could really achieve.
Food and beverage, a physician, and then getting the word out. None of this was for JAG. Everything was for other people. There's the
Right.
underlying message. How do you make it? How do you make it valuable for the other end of the seesaw? Right. Good move with $1,000. Two more. Most overrated marketing trend in physical therapy right now. What's played out? What are people doing too much that doesn't work?
They're spending too much time just trying to gain referrals through physicians, and that's just one avenue of it. That is not your end all be all. Relationships need to be made. We greatly value our physician and referral source relationships, but there's a lot of other things you could do to engage with the community. So I think just too much of that isn't great, and I think we need to look beyond and see that there's so many other tools in our toolbox.
Love it. Last one. Most underrated growth channel that no one's paying attention to now that they will be all over in 2026. What's
Um,
underrated?
so PR, and that's because good PR comes with the cost, right? You can gain some tools internally to gain some PR. Again, you need someone working that day in and day out to have a good PR company to help you spread the word about who you are and in turn get people talking about who you are in a good way and leverage and position yourself as a thought leader and an expert in your field. That's not something that I see a lot of healthcare organizations taking advantage of. And again, a good PR company comes with a cost. So that's part of it. But I think that's something that really needs to be looked at. Everybody knows the other traditional channels. I mean, if you're not doing anything digital marketing, you're failing. You need to be in that space. But I think PR is a really underutilized tool, specifically in healthcare and PT, that more people need to take advantage of.
Have you ever utilized Haro, Haro, help a reporter out? Is that a tool you've ever utilized or heard of?
No, no.
If you've ever seen like a small physical therapist or doctor, somehow they wind up in, Shape magazine as a quote. Haro, help a reporter out. Essentially, it's just a quick message board between subject matter experts and reporters who need an expert quote on something they have on deadline really quick. And that is free to be an expert on. So if you're a physical therapist or someone who's like, yeah, I want to be on the national stage or a local magazine, help a reporter out. Haro is a pretty good juice versus squeeze tool before you go and hire a public relations firm. All right, take a breath, exhale. Game time is over. You passed all 6 questions, Kayla.
Wonderful.
Last thing we do on the show is called the parting shot. Your chance for a mic drop moment, a soapbox statement. What do you want to leave with the audience as your parting shot as we wrap up?
I think for me is I'm very proud about what I do, healthcare services and physical therapy in general. It is growing more prevalent each and every day. Physical therapy is a low cost option with high results. And we hit on, every population you can imagine. So I would say mic drop moment is reach out to your local physical therapist, understand exactly what they do. I mean, from slips and falls prevention to, obviously sports injuries. We treat everything from, 2 years old all the way up the age spectrum. So reach out to your local PT, find a good one. It's great if you don't need them, but at some point in your life you will. And it's better to take the time now than let that
Kayla,
injury
marketing to
progress
the
and get
end. That's
worse
what she
down the
does.
line.
It's not even in your blood. It's what you are. You have to. JAG Physical
I
Therapy.
had
Congrats
to.
on going from 2 to 162. That is I mean, I would say that's a large feat, but that's ridiculous. So good on you for doing that. And I'm glad you've been there for the full ride, because I'm sure the growth would not have been there without really great marketing and public relations and communications around it.
It's been a great journey, but at the end of the day, we have the best team, and it makes my job easy. So I consider myself very lucky and blessed to be here for so long. But my coworkers are my family, and I couldn't do it without them. Thank you.
Let's be real, you didn't become a therapist to be average. You've got something in you that wants more mastery, more impact, more confidence in the clinic. That's exactly what Brooks Institute of Higher Learning delivers. Their residency and fellowship programs aren't just resume builders, they're transformation zones. You get one-on-one mentoring, deep dive classwork, labs, and real-time experience inside one of the most advanced rehab systems in the country. And the best part? You're not grinding this out on the side. You get a full salary and benefits while you train with the best. Whether it's ortho, neuro, peds, geriatrics, women's health, Brooks IHL helps you become the expert you know you're meant to be. Check out brooksihl.org to learn more and take that next step.